approve the minutes from 9/4 and 9/11.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5 affirmative. And we have a motion to approve and ratify the fund report and docket.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by John Purdy,
Second.
second by Chad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5 affirmative. First thing on the agenda is the budget approval. I think everybody's had a chance to review it since all the changes were made. At this point, if there's any questions or comments about the changes or concerns about what was done, if not, we'll have a motion to approve the 2025 budget.
I just wanted to note, and this part doesn't go on what we're approving tonight, but that I increased the sewer budget $1,351 and the stormwater $1,127. I sent that in the email, and that's because there were a few lines that I forgot to include longevity in the salary figures.
Okay, yeah.
And Matt knows about it.
Okay.
I make the motion to approve the budget.
Motion by John Purdy.
Second.
Second by John Chalotsky. Questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5 affirmative. Okay, under old business, the insurance and the phone system will be discussed in the November meeting. So Angela, if you'll move both of those to the next meeting, please.
Okay.
Matt called me today and he didn't have information from Corey. And I think he sent a message out as far as the insurance and make sure we do that correctly. Fiscal plan for annexation.
It is a requirement of Indiana state statute that a fiscal plan be prepared there it is. As a part of an annexation of new territory. The purpose of it is for a financial consultant to look at and project what the town's additional costs will be to serve the area to be annexed, and consider what additional revenue the town will receive as a result of that property as it is expected to be improved and assessed will generate for the town. Its purpose is really for the town to defend itself against a remonstrance. So it's not so much on the front end a requirement for all of you to consider whether you will vote to annex the territory. But after an annexation ordinance is adopted, there is a remonstrance period where interested parties can challenge in a lawsuit filed with a Johnson County court the council's decision to annex the territory. And at that point, the town would justify its decision by holding up the fiscal plan. We have to do it. I mean, we have to have one. Adam Stone, you all got this proposal. Adam was the controller at Greenwood for a number of years. He, I don't know whether to say he's sort of the go-to in this Johnson County market, but he is a go-to in the Johnson County market for municipal sort of financial consulting services. He's done fiscal plans for Whiteland, and I don't know whether he did them for Greenwood back in the day or not, but he knows the terrain. He comes highly recommended. I don't know him prior to this. I've spoken with him. I've researched him a bit. Stephen Watson in our office, who represents Whiteland, has done a lot of work for Greenwood, knows him, and actually turned me on to him as the right person to get to do this. And so he has submitted this proposal for $5,000 to prepare the fiscal plan, and I've made him aware that we really want that in time for you all to make a decision at your November meeting. And if that'll make sense and you are so inclined, I would need a motion tonight to approve a contract with Stone Municipal Group for $5,000 to prepare the fiscal plan for the proposed annexation of the property at the northwest corner of Whiteland Road and Sawmill Road, for a flat fee of $5,000, and authorize John Perrin to sign.
Is this something we should get additional bids on?
In a perfect world, we're so short on time trying to streamline this, and we don't have to be.
Well, in fairness, we're not. I mean,
I get it,
right.
but we have sort of chosen to be, and we don't have to be. I get your point. I think that I think a proposal from any other firm who would do this would be significantly higher. And I know you're relying on me to tell you that, and I can't tell you that because I've gone and gotten quotes from others. What really has been the case is we were trying to find someone in this market who knew the terrain, who could do this, and hopefully move at the pace that we're trying to move. And Adam says he can, and this is what he has submitted.
Are there any regulations or ordinance of the town? I mean, this is $5,000 we're spending.
That's
Is there
right.
any ordinance that says, or policy that the town has that over a certain dollar amount we have to get additional bids?
We are supposed to attempt to get 3 bids. You always have the discretion to waive that requirement. And, well, actually, because it's a service contract, not a purchase of, it's not a public works project or a purchase of supplies, we aren't required to get 3 bids.
It's the same as the insurance with the insurance.
Yeah, that is right, because it's purely services. So no, we don't have to.
And I don't have any issue with what's being proposed. Why would we feel like we're under such a rush to approve this? I don't understand that.
I think it's imposed. It's somewhat self-imposed because I think there's an interest in trying to meet the developer schedule who has this property under contract with the sellers.
Sure.
And if they can't meet their due diligence requirements by a certain date, that contract will expire. We all know how this works, John. If the property owner is motivated to sell the property, they're going to give them another extension.
Sure.
But there are deadlines out there that are real, but maybe can be extended to a later date.
Sure.
My sense is that New Whiteland is wanting to capture this opportunity and not take the risk that it ends up being a development out in the county that burdens our community, but for which we don't receive any benefit.
Sure.
And so with that in mind, I'm going to speak for you, but you can come up and crush my head if you want. Dwayne and Matt and I and others have tried to be particularly accommodating because we've had this ground sitting there for all these years with not doing anything for the town. These folks have come along, and we have said to them, we don't work for you, but if you are trying to hit a deadline, we are willing to try to move at a pace that will be accommodating. And we have warned them that we may not be able to. And there may be someone who requests a continuance of any one of the hearings that's coming along. And there may be representatives of the town, elected or appointed officials, who decide, I got to know more about this. And they know, same deal,
Sure.
that it is more common than not that a approval process like this suffers some continuances and delays.
Right.
And that may happen. And it's fine for that to be one that the town feels like it needs to have the comfort level. But if we're going to move forward with the annexation, we have to have a fiscal plan.
Right.
What I feel comfortable saying to you is Adam Stone can do it. Adam Stone is doing it for what I think is actually less money than I expected the quote to be.
Sure.
And has offered to try to get it done to meet the timetable that we've sort of committed to with all the qualifications and disclaimers.
Sure.
And that's where we find ourselves. But I work for the town. You work for the town. And if it feels more comfortable to get more quotes, we'll do it. And if it feels more, knowing that it may slow the process down, that's okay. I guess on the one hand, I don't want this opportunity to be lost if it ultimately ends up making sense for the town, because that bean field's not generating much money for us,
Right.
and 400 homes will. And I fear that if the town doesn't annex that property and allow it to be developed, it's going to be developed anyway.
Sure.
And it may be that those sewer customers become Whiteland customers rather than new Whiteland customers, and that revenue generated off that tax base goes to Johnson County rather than New Whiteland.
Sure.
And so with that in mind, I have been working to try to push this along at a pace that I would not say is unrealistic, but is moving it
Right.
along,
Right.
streamlining it.
So if I understand right, then you're saying next November we should expect a vote on the annexation and the development, or?
We are trying to make that possible. Whether you choose to or not is your decision.
Right.
But I think what we're trying to do is have everything done so that it is sort of ripe for you to consider.
So it could be potentially, okay.
So it could be.
If this gets approved tonight, will they have that done? Will this report be done in time for it to be to the Plan Commission in October? Because won't they have to approve it
No.
before?
No, really, annexation really is a function of the town council. The Plan Commission just really looks at how land will be developed and used. It's really not under its purview to consider the sort of the economic implications of an annexation.
Okay, so
Not that they
that's
wouldn't be
not an
interested.
issue.
Not that they wouldn't be interested
Okay.
or aren't allowed to care.
Okay.
But the requirement statutorily that a fiscal plan be done is so that we can rely on it as justification for the council's decision to take this ground into the town and make it a part of the annexed territory.
Okay. Well, one of the things that you said earlier that I think will help with your question, because I know exactly where you were going with the 3 bids, is because it's a service and not that computer,
Right.
we're not bound by the 3 quotes or bids, so.
We
And I
are,
didn't know that for a long time either, so.
but John, I want to be contradicting myself. I have said for decades, we ought to treat the town's money and make decisions like we would in our own household. And you know, if you're hiring someone to provide some service for you in your personal life, you may shop around and try to figure out whether you got the right person and
Right.
and whether you're being charged a fair price. I guess, again, without having gotten the bids, I don't mean to overreach. I think if we went to a Baker Tilly or a Steve Brock or an LWG or a Reedy Financial or any of those firms, I think it's nearly inconceivable that we would end up with a price less than this. And if so, it would be, I don't know about a nominal amount, but I can't imagine it would
No,
be
and
an
I
appreciable
don't dismiss
amount.
what you're saying, yeah.
Any other questions?
This has nothing to do with this, but I'm just trying to follow the process.
Yeah.
So the plan commission, you expect in October to have a final plan and all the engineering in front of them?
So the Plan Commission has now the preliminary plat, which is the next step in their process. They will be,
So we haven't seen that. Is that
you
right?
have not.
Okay, I'd like to.
Yeah. So we've only had it for a little bit, and GRW, that's the order of the initial. GRW, the engineer, again, streamlining it at the town's request, at our request, has done their review of that preliminary plat to consider development issues like traffic flow, lot configuration, drainage, common area, and has submitted back to Matt and Dwayne comments, and they plan to meet with the engineer and some other, I don't know who you all have decided to include, I think the fire department, the police department, on a technical review of the plan with the engineer's comments to then give back to the developer to ask them to make changes or to agree to development commitments And once that comes back, we would plan to deliver that revised plan with comments and commitments to the plan commission members and to the council. You certainly can have it now, but it's gonna be scrutinized, and some changes will be made.
Sure. Yeah, as things come in, since we are such on a
Yeah.
compressed timeframe, as soon as things come in, I don't know how the other council members feel. I'd like to see this, and
Sure.
I won't insert myself and muck things up unless I have real questions.
Right. Well,
But I
yeah.
would like to see the documents as they start to flow back and forth.
And I guess, John, in the sense that,
Well, I may insert myself. What I'm saying is I'm not gonna get into the technical review. Those sort of things. But I wanna have as much information as early as I can, because, in 30 days, we're gonna vote on something pretty significant. I'd like to have as much
I agree.
What I don't wanna have happen is, so we're meeting on the 4th or 5th of next month. This comes to us on the 25th of this month. That's not gonna give me enough time to digest.
okay. Right? I mean, I guess as it goes through this technical review back to the developer, some of what may cause this to be delayed is whether the developer gets it back to us
Right.
in that time frame. I'll say that they seem pretty committed to turning things around really quickly, almost to the point that you want to say, all right, now you're asking for too much, but we're just going to have to see how it plays out.
Well,
And I get your point. You don't want to have it
And
at
don't
the meeting.
misunderstand, I'm not against this.
I get it.
That's not where I'm coming from. But, to give me 3 or 4 days or 5 days to ask questions,
Sure.
I'm not gonna be ready in November.
Got it.
And understand your point totally, John, but I guess my question is, does that muddle the plan commission process at all?
How do you mean?
If we're sending two council members and they're going through and looking at it, and, I guess my question is, if the council member's gonna do it, or all the council members are gonna do it, and they come back with comments, I guess what's the point of the plan commission at that point?
Because the plan commission will approve the plat. And it really isn't a function of the council to approve the plat.
Right.
It
And I don't really anticipate inserting myself at all. But again, and I don't know how the flow will work. I mean, if this comes out a week before we meet in November, I'm probably not gonna have enough time.
Well,
That's
I think that that's a very prudent and pertinent thing to request. Because I hadn't thought about it, but the reality of it is we're making a pretty big decision in a short amount of time. And we should know as many of the ins and outs to it. That way, as we're hearing the different entities like the plan commission, like our police and fire and all of that, we have some sort of conceptual idea of what's going on. So I think that's a very good
So
comment.
does I guess the thing to remember too, this is totally preliminary. So you're gonna sit and look at a preliminary plat, a set of plans that is liable, based on the comments and everything that's taken, is liable to totally change. That you're gonna turn around and you're gonna, I just don't want you to get things muddled up with looking at a preliminary plat, that intersections aren't, may not be in their current location. The lots may be totally switched around to some extent. Is that going to cause, and I'm not trying to say one way or the other, I just don't want to get things confused.
No, because I've been here longer than everybody, and I can tell you the council we've never gotten that information ahead of time.
Well,
Now,
but-
granted, we only did Country Gate and the 2 new ones that were before everybody else.
But let's talk a bit about how this process is a bit different than how it is normally. So when the 2 developments out on 75, Lennar and
And Big Brownstone.
Beezer, yeah. That property was already in the town, it was already zoned. And they came to the plan commission to plat it, which was the layout of the subdivision, the configuration and number of lots, the street design. And you all have nothing to do with that. So the plan commission approve the plat. That stays with the plan commission. That approval never comes to the council. It is purely design and development and land use on property that is already zoned. Once it's zoned, the town council doesn't have a hand in it anymore. A PUD on property that has not yet been annexed
Right.
is a different creature.
Right.
But even under a PUD, you don't approve the plat. You approve the ordinance that rezones it as a PUD, but as a part of that ordinance, there are architectural and development standards that are included in it because it doesn't fall under one of our zoning classifications that has its own set of development standards. When a property is zoned PUD, there are development standards that are included in that ordinance, unique to that development. Unless in some cases, which is what's being proposed here, they point to the development standards of one of the zoning classifications of the town as the development standards that are going to apply to certain sections of the PUD. But your function as the council in this process is to either approve or reject the request to rezone it to a PUD and adopt the PUD ordinance that will include some of these development standards. It won't include the plat. But if you want to understand the plat, want to know what it shows, and you choose for that to be relevant to your decision to vote to rezone or not rezone the property or annex or not annex the property, it's certainly fine for you to make that relevant. And if you are making that relevant, then you need to know about it. You need to see it and probably attend the plan commission meeting when it's presented
Right, I plan to
and
do
get
that.
what you can
Yeah,
get
I
ahead of
plan to
time,
do that.
which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So by explaining how the process works, yes, the approval of the plat is not up to you. But the extent to which,
You say tomato, I say tomato.
that's exactly, because you can decide, yeah, I get it, I'm not casting a vote directly on the approval of this, but because I don't like it, I'm not approving that.
Right.
So, but that's how it works, just to explain how the process plays out. And what is anticipated is, and this is true with all plats, when a preliminary plat is submitted to the plan commission, it's presented at a public hearing held by the plan commission. And if the plan commission approves the preliminary plat, we are obligated. This has been the case, the subject of some litigation, but it's pretty clear under under our subdivision control ordinance, but certainly statutorily, that if that preliminary plat is approved and a final plat is submitted that is in conformance with that preliminary plat, or is changed only to the extent that the preliminary plat is approved subject to these changes,
Sure.
it has to be approved. I mean, if we say the preliminary plat's approved and you submit the final plat that has signature blocks on it, or plat covenants, or development commitments, and it comes back in the form that the plan commission approved the preliminary plat, then we've nowhere to hide at that point. You can't say to a developer, we approve your preliminary plat, submit your final plat. They submit the final plat, looks just like the preliminary plat, and say, nah, we've changed our mind. You can't change your mind at that point. It is administrative. And we have the discretion, our plan commission does, and it has always done this, to delegate the final approval of the secondary, the final plat, to our zoning administrator. Because the only function at that point is to look at the final plat compared to the preliminary plat and say, yes, they're the same, it's approved. Or yes, they're the same except for the conditions of approval of the preliminary plat, and these conditions have been added to the final plat, so I'm signing off on it. That's how that will work. And that is not something that involves the town council, because it's not a legislative function in the sense that we're adopting an ordinance. But it is different in a PUD, where what these folks could have done instead would have come to you and say, we want you to annex this ground, and we want you to zone it RS3, or whatever our zoning, is that one of them?
Yeah, that's one of them.
We want you to zone it RS3. And once it's zoned RS3, then it can be developed subject to the development standards of RS3. And if you rezoned it, you're out. Once you've done that,
Right.
the council's out of the process. We're then going off to plat it. But here, this sort of hybrid, blended sort of creature that is a planned unit development has you kind of drawn into the approval of the actual development itself, and because it's happening simultaneously, along with the annexation, you have the opportunity to, like I said, make relevant to your decision of the things you decide,
Sure.
the actual plan itself.
Well, and I get all that, and I appreciate the explanation. Where my gut is if this comes to me after the planning meeting and I've got a week to digest it, I doubt I'm gonna be ready. So, go ahead.
I was just getting ready to say, is there a problem with us having the preliminary plat or not?
Well, I
No.
don't think there is.
None.
Well, then, I mean, we had a lot of discussion
Yeah.
about it and a lot of education, which I really, really do need. Okay, but we're talking about whether or not to get a copy of the plat, and if there's not, then, yeah, I want one,
Yeah.
the
Well,
preliminary.
but what I think you'll also see is the plat will look very much like the concept plan you've already seen. They're not going to deviate from that very much. And I think when you say, you know, it could come back and be, it won't be very different.
No,
It
it
won't.
won't. You may have like, some of the comments and stuff that we've already talked about, their entrances and stuff, you know,
Right.
that they've got just a cell, D cell thing. Well, that doesn't even meet the construction standards that we already have set forward. So that's one of the changes
It will.
that's gonna be on there. Another point of contention was the radii of the intersection turns. You know, some of those are 25 foot or 20 foot, they need, or 30 foot, I think is what it was, and they need to be changed to 25, or I may have that backwards. Things like that you may not even see, but it may make a huge difference on there.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I don't care who has it.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we don't get things muddled up within the process.
Yeah, I think we will arrange for you all to have a copy of what has been submitted and revisions to that as they come along.
Yeah, and
Let's just do that.
And the interaction back and forth. I'm not gonna insert myself in it, don't misunderstand. But that way, if I'm following the discussion, I'm following the changes you're making, then I'm gonna understand what's presented to me on early November. I'm not gonna have those questions because I will have watched the process.
That sounds
But
fine.
again, I'm not gonna start jumping into emails and firing off questions. If I fire off questions at all, it'll be to you, not to.
And it's fine if you do.
Right, no,
I know,
like I
no,
said,
I'm not.
I reserve the right, but I don't intend to.
That's okay, but I don't think any of you, when I say that the approval of the plat isn't a council decision, that doesn't mean you can't be interested in it. And it would be great if you are. I think it actually would be somewhat refreshing to have a council who's going to vote on a PUD ordinance take as much of an interest as you are taking.
Right.
And not have something given to you at 5 o'clock to vote on at 5:15.
And that's where I'm coming from. This is significant for this town.
It is.
I've been stopped walking up and down the street by neighbors asking me, what is this thing going on? Why is it happening so fast? A lot of the neighbors don't want it to happen, obviously. I'm not in that camp. I'm really not. But again, you know, like you said, if it's handed to me at 5 and let's take a vote, my vote's no.
I got it. And if we've talked about this, New Whiteland to a fault is accommodating, and I think we ought to be, to the extent that we can, without suffering any harm and without compromising our position and our review of what gets done in town. But to my mind, we're a small town that would like to see some growth, and we want to be user friendly as an organization, unlike an awful lot of other jurisdictions around us.
Sure.
And if we make it easier for a developer or a business person or a food truck vendor or whomever else to come into New Whiteland or do business with New Whiteland, and we go to effort that other municipalities wouldn't to treat those people in the way we'd like to be treated, and do it always with an eye toward ultimately benefiting the town, it tends to be more about how quickly we respond rather than granting favors or allowing people to cut corners. We don't do that. I don't think we do that. But if Cindy has someone call with a question, she's going to answer that question. She's not going to go to sleep or eat her lunch or do anything else until and she'll talk to him and she'll talk to Matt and she'll call me. You know, if you went to Greenwood or Indianapolis or anywhere else like Franklin or anywhere else I can think of, you may wait a couple of days to get an answer. And we just don't do that. And maybe because we're small enough and aren't so stressed time-wise, we can do that.
Sure.
I have said to Cindy and both Matt and Wayne at times, hey, you know, we don't work for them. We don't have to.
Right.
But I find myself doing it too. And then I sit back and think, that's a good problem for New Whiteland to have, to try to be responsive and accommodating in a world where all of us complain so much about that not being the kind of service we get, so long as we aren't doing it in a way that allows people not to abide by the rules. And I don't think we do. But we're doing that here. And to your point, even if we need to slow this down, if we need to cool it a bit, for no reason other than the perception that some people in the community may have that we have tried too hard to force this, to cram it down the community's throat without being as deliberate and discerning as what they think we should be, then we need to cool it down. Because as much as I think this is good for the town, I think that if it suffers a 30-day delay, it's not going to change the ultimate outcome. It's going to complicate things a bit. If it suffers a 6-month delay, I think we may see those houses being built out there and that traffic on our roads just the same, and us have no control over how it gets developed, and we're going to lose lots and lots and lots and lots and millions of lots of dollars.
Sure.
And so I don't want to be cavalier about it, and I don't want to do anything purposefully to hamper the developer's progress. But by the same token, you got to have the time you got to have.
Well, and again, don't misunderstand any of the comments. I'm not against it.
I get
I've
it.
got concerns.
I understand.
You know, I think
You're trying to do your job well.
they show
right.
they show a design up on the screen. What you don't see is I think there's going to be about this much room between these houses. You know, we need to understand that going in, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
That's the piece that I want to understand.
And I think on the preliminary plat that you would be given at this moment, you'll see that.
Yeah.
And that will look just like the concept plan that you have seen.
Yeah, and like I say, what I'd like to be is informed throughout the process as those things unfold. Am I going to insert myself? Probably not. You know, if there's something that I see that I really have a hang up with, I'm probably not going to hit a reply all. I'm probably going to talk to you guys and maybe you guys. But again, thinking about when the planning commission meets, to have this handed to us a week or 10 days beforehand, I don't know that I'm going to have enough time to get comfortable with it and say, yeah, I'm
And there is nothing inappropriate about you inserting yourself and asking questions.
Right.
And it would be fine for two of you to attend that meeting at which there is this technical review if you wanted to. I think it would be, I think we can't have three of you there. But I'm not sure that would be something that would work in your schedules anyway. But we're not breaking any rules for you to participate.
Well, and I think you even said at the last meeting that, you know, as we look at the first plat or whatever that we're talking about, if we have questions or things that we'd like to see different in there, let you guys know, so when you go to the tech review meeting, you can, hey, this is something somebody noticed that we didn't see, and that's kind of the
Yeah, it's
idea.
just- So this process is new.
It's new to everybody, yeah.
So, you know, it's a learning curve on that side of it. And then, you know, I just wanna be cautious and don't get things muddled up, because one thing that chaps my rear end is looking like a goofball when we're talking and trying to deal with these developers, because one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing. And that's the process that I don't wanna make it look like happen, but if it happens, it happens.
So Dwayne, are you saying that us having the initial plat does that?
No, not at all. Not at all. I just, like I said, you guys just need to be aware that there are some changes that could be coming down the pipe that are on that, and, you know, it's may not 100% be the same.
I think more to not get the cart before the horse, okay? Because you were talking about social media already. Okay, there's already people out in the community that are making noise about what's gonna be there, what's not gonna be there. They don't have a clue. And I think that's what Matt and Dwayne are asking, is this, let's make sure that we're letting the plan commission, which is them, do their job. If we have things that are important, by all means, express to them what's important. But, you know, what you keep saying, we are not going to insert ourselves, so to speak, other than just questions or comments. And I think that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, if they're directed to, you know, I guess what I didn't want to happen is, I didn't want the process circumvented, I guess. So
Exactly.
if you have, I didn't want you guys to reach out, this may sound bad, I didn't want you guys reaching out directly to the developer this early on in the process, because it just seems weird to me to do all of that. I think if we just follow the process that the state statute said, plus what we have, you know, we will come out with a good outcome, and we'll end up changing some things along the way. We'll learn some stuff moving forward.
Well,
That's understandable.
and what you said was kind of what I was thinking was, I would like to be informed, much like John brought up, just so if there is a question and knowing there's gonna be some changes, but at least we can follow the process so we do understand it. But at the same point, not insert ourselves to where there is a process in place and we can ask questions, but we need to stay in our lane, so to speak.
Well, and that's not really what I was trying to say, but.
Well, and it actually could serve to speed things up, if you all have this stuff sooner rather than
You
later.
see, that's one of those things though, this has become more of a philosophical type of thing to me. I am an elected official. There's nothing that forbids me from inserting myself
Not at
into
all.
the process. I have no power over the process. But there's not anything that says that I can't be, and I can't ask questions, and I can't directly contact the developer. Do I plan to actually talk to a developer? I'm not even sure I know a phone number.
No,
Okay.
and I'm not saying that's exactly what I would do. I just didn't want that to happen.
Well, and I agree with what John said. Some of it's philosophical. As a council member, if I decide to reach out, I'm going to. I don't plan to, and I don't think it'd be necessary, and I think it would be poor form. That's why I say any question I have, I'll probably ask you, and you may have an answer, you may pass it on. But if there comes a point where I say, I really want to talk to that developer, either as a council member or a taxpayer, I'm going to call them. I don't anticipate that happening any more than you do. But again, like I say, what I want to be able to say to the people that, again, are in my neighborhood and that ask me questions about this thing is, I understand it. I understand exactly what I voted on. I understand exactly how we got there. You don't support it. I understand that. I do. I think it's good for the town, and that's why I voted the way I voted. I don't think I can do that if I'm not, again, there's part of my, I shouldn't say issue, but part of my issue is the compressed time frame. We don't have a lot of time to understand this. And by the time it's up, if it goes up and we all look at it and go, that is god awful, it's too late.
That makes sense.
Well, and
I
I think
mean, we've all
between
seen
now,
some of these neighborhoods that go up and you look 5 years later and go, whose idea was that?
I think too, between now and you're saying, John, that knowing about it, you can justify, defend, feel comfortable about your decision, but between now and the time you make a decision, if you all are being asked questions about it, and like you said, John, people don't know what in the world's gonna go there. If you have the plat, if you know the number of lots, if you have a sense of lot size, where the entrances are gonna be, you can have the conversation with people who stop you and say, no, let me tell you, I've looked into it, and here's what it's gonna be, or here's what's proposed.
Right.
It's this many lots, the lot sizes are like this, the streets are like this, so you're more conversant about it between now and then,
Sure.
which may be useful in and of itself. And having a plat in your hand would make you better able to do that.
Sure.
So you'll have them.
Well, and the other part that I was gonna add is, if we have the information ahead of time, we can maintain a relatively quick pace. I honestly don't think slowing the pace down is gonna change any of the public's opinion. Those that are dead set against it, they're dead set against it regardless. But if we do have the information, we can at least share what information we have,
I
the
think-
general.
But the public's perception of you, not the project, but how the town ultimately decides whether to approve it, that time may influence that, because if the perception of folks in the public who are opposed to it think this got all greased up and slicked through, and the council, the town, was somehow overly accommodating and did not take the time it should have to critically consider this development. Somebody did something underhanded behind the scenes or something to make this get approved faster than it should have, then that's not an issue you want to be dealing with. And that to me is a reason, like I said, to cool it down and slow it down. And I guess you all need to decide, based on the interactions you're having, whether you think that issue is compelling enough that in the eyes of the community, thinking that is what is happening, we really don't want that to be the takeaway from this. Then you need to voice that.
I'm not even worried about that.
Okay.
Somebody mentioned social media. I don't do social media at all. So I don't frankly care what Facebook thinks of this. I honestly don't. The people that I talk to on a daily basis, I care about that. The rabble, what I find humorous, my wife does do Facebook. She tells me they're gonna flood the meeting. I don't see them, if they're that upset. But if you come to the meeting, you'll understand the process, you'll understand,
Right.
you'll see it develop, and at least you'll understand what in the world is going on. Everything that's being said is being said out of complete ignorance.
I think too, if it's useful, I mentioned this before, but I don't know that if New Whiteland turns down this proposed development, I don't know that the developer runs down to the county and files for zoning and plat approval there. Because if you don't annex this ground, it remains in the county, subject to the county's plan commission's jurisdiction and the county commissioner's jurisdiction. And this ground cannot be developed without sewer service. But I don't have any reason to think that they can't get that someplace.
Sure.
And if I were an elected official or appointed official in New Whiteland and I thought this was good for the town, I would try to help my constituents understand that this might happen anyway.
Right.
And if it happens under our watch as annexed territory in the town of New Whiteland, we have control over it and we get a lot of money off of
We
it.
get the tax funds that come in.
And
Yeah.
if we don't seize the opportunity before this window closes, it may happen just the same. And it will burden our community, but it will not benefit it in any way.
And that's the most compelling reason to press forward.
It
And
is for
that's
me
why
too.
I say I'm
Yeah.
not against this thing at all.
I get it.
But, and that's the piece that I think the public doesn't understand. If we say, no, absolutely not, it's still gonna happen.
They're not,
It's
well, I'm not
like-
sure, but it
Well,
could.
it's not like they're gonna right to the county and immediately start. That's not an easy walk either.
It's not.
Yeah, but again, the ground's gonna get developed. It's a
I
question of
think
when
so.
and how.
I think so. And to say, well, we want a bit fewer lots, we want a little bit better spacing, we want a little bit different road design. I don't know how much you can change it and not drive off the developer, and there's not a way to know that without testing the water a bit. And if that's what the town decides to do, it's gonna take longer than the timetable we're on right now. But that is what is in process right now with the town's engineer reviewing the plans and sitting down with the town's representatives on a technical review committee, in a technical review meeting, to go back to the developer and say, yeah, we're okay with it, but we gotta have some things changed. And that's where we are, and that's what we're trying to do, and that's what they're trying to do.
Sure.
So,
Sure. Well, it would be, when that technical review gets set, if I can make it, I'd be curious to sit in on that.
Okay.
Just more to learn than anything
Yeah.
else, I don't imagine.
Be learning right along with us.
What's that?
I say you'll be learning right
Right,
along
I
with
mean.
well, it's the
we're
most
talking-
efficient way to get the information and get your questions
Exactly,
answered.
and that's really what I'm
Right
after.
there.
When you start talking about this needs to be 25 feet or 32 feet, I mean, that's gonna go in this here and out this here. But again, there's a learning process, because this won't, this
and
probably
the
won't be
other-
the last one we do.
And the other piece too, in talking to constituents, I think what we just said, I think to make a threat that if you don't do this, the county's going to do it. It's, I don't know but it certainly could happen. It's not a remote possibility. The other piece is too, we're talking about ground that sits around a wastewater treatment facility. And this developer and these tract builders are bold enough to think that they can sell houses from me to you from the wastewater treatment facility. And they've done it other places and they think they can do it. I don't know that another developer proposing another project would attempt to make that ground productive ground. And you could say on the one hand, well, these houses are too close together. You could say on the other hand, we never dreamt that we would be collecting tax revenue off of the ground on the other side of the fence of the wastewater treatment facility, and here we have an opportunity to do that. And what else is going to happen to that ground if these people don't try to develop it? So are they exactly the kind of houses spaced the way you want them to be in a perfect world? I doubt that they're going to be. Are you going to figure out some other way to generate assessed value on ground on the other side of the fence? I don't have an alternative for you, certainly.
We'll see if they can
I
pull that
don't.
one off, right? But they probably can.
So,
I said, we'll see if they can pull that
Yeah.
row of houses
Well,
off,
these-
but
these-
they probably can.
these folks, I think, kind of know what they're doing.
Hey, the thing
You
you
know?
have to look at is there's two other towns right close to us. Our neighboring
Yeah.
town right here and
They've done it.
Barnesville.
They've done it.
Houses right up against the wastewater treatment.
Whiteland's doing it, but have they actually
They are.
started building on those lots yet? Last
Well,
time
I
I was
don't know,
down there, they hadn't.
They're platted.
If you're driving down their lot, their
I've been
wastewater plant,
there, I've been there.
you can go spit out the window and
I
on
know you
into the
can
neighbor's
throw a
property.
rock and it'll,
Well, the thing I look at with that is, okay, I may not want to live that close to a wastewater plant. And if nobody else does, they won't sell those lots.
right.
If you decide that, hey, that's fine with you, you'll buy one, okay,
More power to you.
yeah, knock yourself out.
Well, and as bad as we make it sound, it isn't the most appealing prospect to be living that close to a wastewater treatment facility. But in the modern world, wastewater treatment facilities are operated in a way that is not so objectionable. I mean, we kind of laugh and joke, and we know what's going on over there. But Matt, he knows what he's doing, and
Crappy job.
You know, you think about every yard has a sanitary sewer running down the middle of it. You're walking over the top of that sanitary sewer that's transporting the same stuff. Huh? It's big. But, you know, you're in pretty close proximity to the nastiness.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't have an odor to it, it doesn't have any effect on you at all, and it doesn't very often have much.
Yeah.
So anyway,
By the time it's all said and done, you probably, a few years after, you won't even be able to see it because of the burn and the trees
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
yeah, they're gonna screen it. Anyway,
Okay, we
So
are trying to vote on a
so,
contract. No, you're fine. That's
good
what we're here
conversation.
The
for.
motion.
no, John, that's
John made a motion to.
really good conversation.
To accept the contract. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Dennis.
John
Other
Purdy, John Purdy.
John Purdy. Other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5 affirmative. Is this the official copy?
It can be. It is if you sign
It
it.
is now.
What are we supposed to be seeing up here, AV guy? Anything? Are we supposed to be seeing
Is
an
it still
image?
black screen?
Yeah.
It is. It hasn't changed much.
I'm gonna be in Gulf Shores when the planning commission meets. I just realized I'm gonna be
Probably
in
nothing.
Gulf Shores when the planning commission meets.
Darn.
Yeah. Maybe I'll
I
watch
mean,
it online.
it may be on it, I don't know, I look good at YouTube.
Okay, other old business? Lee?
No.
Old business? Chaz? John? Dennis?
Nope.
Dwayne, when's the sign scheduled to go up with Ashland?
Don't have it yet, so I don't know.
Okay,
I thought you were talking about the school zone signs, those are going
No.
up tomorrow.
we don't have
Good
school
man.
zones signs going up on Ashland.
No.
You have other old business? Okay, new business. The audit. Angela, let you have your thunder.
Let's do a little of this.
Absolutely.
So,
That's okay.
yes, we just went through our first, or my first audit, and, John Perrin and John Purdy were at the exit meeting, and, they did not have any findings to report at all.
Nothing.
There were a few things along the way that they noted that we, fixed, or that we were able to explain, or we were able to find, but those, they were very impressed.
Yeah, I've sat in a lot of audits and a lot of exit meetings, and that was by far one of the easiest. I think that's congratulations. That was a very nice
Yeah.
outcome. That
Yeah.
really was.
And it doesn't happen that way everywhere.
No. And
I
they made a
assure
point.
you.
What was the gentleman that was there, his name? Michael, I think. But
I know
he,
the lady was all right.
well, he goes to most all of these. He's a big shot with SBOA. And his comment was, they hardly ever go this well. So congratulations, that's awesome.
If any of you would like to attend one that doesn't, I can suggest to you some community. In fact, I can arrange for you to attend if you're ever interested.
I keep reading about Trafalgar. I think it made stuff.
Not that one. Although that is one, but that's not mine.
Right. No, I know.
But yes, that would be one to attend.
And I don't wanna take all the credit because, Mary Beth pretty much set me up with a system that I can follow that would be good, and then everyone in the office. I feel really blessed because we really have, I feel like everybody tries to do their best and tries to do the right thing, and that we work well together, so.
That's New Island.
Okay, CD renewal.
Okay, I received this in the mail like a couple days ago, and, so I had to contact our bank, and she got the new options over to me, because I was like, I need them for Wednesday. So you guys all got an email with this memo I sent earlier today. It's similar to the one last year, only it's updated. It shows you at the top we do have 3 CDs. There's only one maturing right now because last year we did the laddering, which we felt like was a good idea. And then in the middle, it shows our two options. We have a 12-month and a 24-month option. And then at the bottom, I kind of, just as a reminder, I showed what our other two CDs are and when they mature and their interest rates, just so you have all of that. But basically, I need to know on the middle part, are we gonna do the 12-month at 4.4% or the 24-month at 3.68?
Well, I'm gonna stick my nose in again here.
Yeah, please do.
And full disclosure, I think everybody knows I work at the bank that quoted these. But my role here as a town councilor, when we did the CDs we have, and this is maybe more inside baseball than you need to know, the bank was in a position that we needed liquidity. Right now, we're not. So I think there probably are rates slightly higher than this out there. I've still seen in the newspaper, there's been advertisements, these aren't municipal deposits, but personal deposits as high as 5% for a year. So again, in full disclosure, there probably are some rates higher than this that we could find if we chose to go shop them. So again, that's my hope as a banker, is that they stay right where they are. My hope as a counselor would be we get as much as we can for the taxpayer. So that's my 2 cents. Whatever we decide, I probably should abstain from it simply because I work at the bank.
You have to decide this by the 16th?
Yes, which is before our next meeting. And I just got the notice,
Well,
like I said, a couple days ago.
in fairness, the CD can roll out of the CD into the checking account or the money market and sit there. So we don't have to make a move by the 16th.
Okay.
The 16th is just when it matures, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think there's a window, and I think, don't quote me on this, but it may be 10 days before to 10 days after. There's a window in there where you can do anything you want. You can take it out, put it in your pocket, and walk away if you want. If you don't do those things, then it automatically renews for another year at whatever the rate is going to be. So we don't absolutely have to, do we have to do something by the 16th? Yeah, but that can be as simple as dumping it in the money market until we decide where it's going.
I think you could, if you wanted to, authorize Angela to purchase a CD at the best prevailing rates that she could find sort of in her discretion, and you could even give her that authority, but she could communicate, John, with you.
Sure.
Whether you agree that that's a good vehicle to invest the money in, and then she could just sort of handle it as a sort of a clerical matter before your next meeting.
Or we could say invest in rates no lower than what.
Yeah, something like that, right.
Yeah.
The two banks I'm aware of that are advertising actively are Lake City and Merchants Bank. I've seen 5% ads for both of them
That's good.
recently.
Yeah, that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little
like I
less
said-
than what we've got now.
Right, as a banker, I'd like to see it stay right where it is, but as a council member, then, we need to do the best thing we can for the taxpayers.
Yeah, if we can get 5, that's 6/10 more, so. I think Lee's suggestion is probably the best way to go.
Yes.
And let Angela doesn't mind calling those two, and if in fact one of them will do that, so. Somebody would like to make a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion for 12 months to give Angela the authority to reinvest our CD at a 12-month CD at 4.4% or more.
Or higher. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Chad. Other questions, comments, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4 affirmative, 1
I'll
abstention.
abstain.
Thank you, appreciate your input.
I did want to note too, when the meeting is over on the budget ordinance, I do need every council member to sign it, and I need every council member to check yea or nay.
Okay,
Because I have to file this in 5 days.
okay. Other new business?
That is all.
Lee? Chad?
No.
John? Dennis?
Nope.
John?
No.
Okay. Legislative ordinance 2024-05, school zone ordinance.
Lay it on him, big man.
Yeah, so in going through and doing all the stuff actually, my error caused them to send, ship in the speed limit signs at the wrong speed limit. In going through and trying to correct that, I came across a bunch of stuff, and one of the things was that New Whiteland does not have an ordinance establishing a school zone. So all these years that we have possibly ticketed people or whatever is really not enforceable. So what you're seeing tonight is a school zone ordinance establishing all of that. Any comments, concerns there?
Not going forward,
None?
not going forward.
I've read the ordinance, I'm willing to make a motion to approve it.
Okay, I have a motion by John Purdy,
Second.
second by Dennis. Questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5 affirmative.
Thank you.
No problem.
Now, wait a minute, that's an ordinance, and okay, so understand that this is being adopted tonight based on the unanimous consent of all of you to adopt it on first reading, and the vote by at least 4 of you was unanimous, so we've met the statutory requirement for it to be adopted on the same evening it's introduced. But we made clear, we don't want to do that as a practice, and we haven't, but because we need to get this done.
Oh, so do we need to?
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't.
Okay.
But just want to make clear that we're aware that we're doing this in one reading, but we certainly can, so thanks. And John, we used to do that thing about suspending the rules and all that kind of stuff. And what occurred to me under the statutory language for adopting an ordinance is the requirement to adopt it on the night that it is introduced is you have to have a 2/3 vote rather than majority. And you have to have the unanimous consent of the members to adopt it on the same night that it is introduced. I now put at the bottom of the ordinance, introduced on October 2nd, and by unanimous consent and the affirmative vote of at least 4 members present, adopted.
Okay.
So I watched to make sure that we meet that statutory requirement. What we used to do would be suspend the rules. Everyone would vote to suspend and we would require that it be unanimous. And then we would adopt it, and we would require that it be 2/3. We did the same thing by taking more action.
Okay.
But what I'm doing now is including language on the ordinance to show that we have met the requirement because I've got at least 4 of you here and you've all voted together.
Okay.
So that's the reason it's different than it used to be, and I never have
Okay.
explained that, but that's the explanation.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. That is everything on this evening's agenda. So at this time, the meeting is open to the public. If you have a question or comment, we ask for your name and address for the record. No, you guys sat here just for entertainment. Wow.
I'm watching Pulaski.
Somebody has.
Somebody needs to keep an eye on it.
Being no other business, we are adjourned.
Richard Hill, the other phone number.
I do not.
Everybody's
Well,
doing
I
okay,
say
right?
that.
But I don't think you're done.
I don't know that I ever.